हाँ ठीक है, बंद कर।
Good evening, everyone. Today is a very, very special day for all of us. And we have a special guest with us this evening. You can see on your screen, we have General Mono Bhagat, Param Visist Shava Medal. Good evening, everyone. Today is a very, very special day for all of us. And we have a special guest with us this evening. You can see on your screen, we have... is that getting echoed? I'm so sorry about it. So Sir, it's our pleasure and privilege to have you for this session this evening. Let me introduce our special guest to the audience today. And it's my pleasure and privilege to do that honor. We have Major General Mono Bhagat, Param Visist Seva Medal, is an infantry officer from the Maha Regiment, a graduate of the Defense Services Staff College, and an alumni of the National Defense College. He is also an MPhil in International Security and Strategic Studies. He also led and commanded the Independent Indian Brigade Group to the UN peacekeeping operations in UNOSOM-2 Somalia in 1993-94. One of the most difficult and dangerous and intricate peace enforcing operations, in which the area of responsibility under his command of 173,000 square kilometers, and that's a huge area, is the biggest ever held by any one single contingent. Approximately 7,000 troops of many nationalities, along with Indian soldiers, comprised the Indian contingent under his leadership, and was the only success story of the UN operations in Somalia. On return, he was conferred in 1995 by the President of India the highest military award of Param Visist Service Medal for service of a most exceptional order, a very rare distinction to an officer of the rank of a brigadier, and none after him has matched that military decoration to date at that rank. And I think all of us must applaud the general's contribution to the Indian Army, to the nation, and to the UN peacekeeping force. Following that, he was picked up by name by the UN Secretary General to serve him as his military advisor at the United Nations headquarters in New York, a post he was in for almost 5 years. Having commanded a division in counter-insurgency areas in J&K, he was posted to the Black Cat Commandos Force, the NSG and IG operation as IG operations. He directed the NSG's successful anti-terrorist operation in 2003 at Akshardham in Ahmedabad, took voluntary retirement from the army in April 2004, and reverted to the UN as an international civil servant, serving in Sierra Leone and DR Congo till his superannuation in 2008. The general is married and has one son. His favorite pastimes are golfing, riding, swimming, photography, reading, and traveling. Again, it's our privilege, sir, to have you with us this evening. And we all are excited and we all look forward to hearing you this evening. Thank you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you very much for the very kind words that you've spoken. And a good evening and a hello to everyone there. Although we are on a blind date, I cannot see you, you cannot see me, but still...
Sir, we all can see you, sir. Sir, we all can see you.
Yeah, but it's virtual, not direct face-to-face.
Yes, sir.
So definitely the dynamics would be a bit different, but I'll endeavor to do my best on this blind date, as I said. I also look forward to taking back with me your views and your impressions of the army as you see it from outside compared to what I have felt of it as an insider. I intend with illustrations sharing my personal experience on the ethics of military profession. Although the topic I noticed this evening you all have written is nothing is impossible. But I had earlier indicated I'll be speaking on the ethics of military profession and the leadership qualities and the attributes, the core skills, core values. But anyway, it has a lot of linkage to everything is possible in the army, as we say. And definitely, we don't use the word nothing is impossible. We say everything is possible. So, in any case, the word, whatever you call it or I call it, they mean one and the same. Uh, now, I would start with, are the armed forces special as a profession? I would say no. But they are certainly unique in whatever they do and hence special in their own way and their way of doing things. And whatever they do it with elan, with pride, and the best that they can. Now, governments run by rules, whereas wars are fought by defying rules and conventions. A set pattern of operation is overtaken by mental agility, ingenuity, maintenance of momentum, aggressive spirit, and that is needed to surprise the enemy, go past him, seize the initiative, kill him first, lest he gets the better of you. The rules for actions at that time are configured on the spot and in quick time. Now, if that be the scenario of a battlefield, it becomes imperative that some core values are identified and imbibed in the minds of these men who mortgage their lives for the nation. This is done by imparting training on the principles and attributes of military leadership. Like the medical or the media ethics, the ethics of military profession have their own core capacity and norms to guide soldiers in their function. They cannot be sacrosanct and are forever evolving with time and the lessons learned. From times immemorial, soldiers have been historically the guardians of kings and their subjects, and in recent times, of nations and their civil societies. The scope being wide and open ended, and therefore military is a unique profession in every respect from history to date. Pre independence, we had the two wars, the Great Wars, World War I and II, and post independence, the Indian military has seen operations in 1948 in J&K when the uh, invaders came by way of infiltrators. Then we had 62, the war with the Chinese, 65 with Pakistan, 71, the Great War, in which Pakistan lost its eastern limb, got converted to Bangladesh, 99, the Kargil conflict, and also we've been having CIA operations all along since our independence in J&K and the Northeast. Northeast have mellowed down considerably, almost finished, but J&K continues. Overseas, we've seen operations in Congo, Gaza, Somalia, Sierra Leone, Lebanon, and Sudan. And the Indian soldiers have excelled everywhere and have been the finest example of the ethics of military profession. I say that proudly, and it's a recognized fact all over the UN, and that is how I was taken to the UN after Somalia, by name, as was brought out. Now, Not all can serve in the military nor be warriors. You have to have the aptitude and the thirst for it. You have to have the determination to do a job which is beyond the call of duty, to go where no human, normal human has ever gone or can go, to do what no ordinary man can do, and survive where no human has ever survived with, within or under unusual circumstances. That is the challenge soldiers live with and center their motivation and emotions around that challenge. Unlike civilians who can wear only a blue suit, we military men wear both a uniform and a blue suit. Uniform signifies the technical specification of the job we do, and the blue suit that we can wear also shows that we are suited to white collar requirements as well. As I said earlier, the military, be it the Army, Navy, or Air Force, all deal with extreme violence, aggression, and destruction of lives and infrastructure. And in battle areas where laws have lost all relevance of sanctity and jurisdiction. It therefore becomes imperative that a code of principles and pragmatic rules be defined in the use of deadly force and victory be attained within a framework of morality and good behavior. The ability to discern between right and wrong, differentiate between a lawful and an unlawful order, in order to ensure that all military actions are justifiable in the eyes of people and the wisdom of humanity. This precisely is what can be termed as the ethics of the military profession. Abstract, infinite, and yet concrete and definite. I'll give you an example of why these ethics are needed or certain rules are needed, and the Canadian troops under their contingent commander too in Haiti. And the Canadians have their own rules of engagement, and they had brought that to the UN. And the contingent commander refused to comply with the orders of the force commander, who was a Canadian, and who had to go by the UN rules of engagement. And there was a stalemate. It reached a time, it reached, became a case where the Canadian lawyers had to come to New York. They came and discussed with me. And I said, okay, perfectly fine. We go by what you say, but let's now debate it further. I said, according to your laws, the Canadian laws, you cannot use deadly force unless there's direct fire of with an intention of imminent death to you. I found that very surprising and told them, when there is a direct fire with intention of imminent death at you, you won't even live to know whether it was directed at you or not, because you'll be dead and gone. So how do you discern whether the fire was coming for you to kill you or not to kill you? So there is a major flaw in the rules that you have defined for yourself in theory, but on ground they don't work that way. And I gave him two examples. I said, let's say a Canadian sentry of yours is on sentry duty at the armory where the weapons are kept. I, as a terrorist or a militant, walk in. I don't touch your sentry. I do no harm to him. I pick up 12 rifles. I walk out, and we use those 12 rifles to kill 1,000 men thereafter. But you, as per your rules, I cannot. Your sentry cannot fire at me. In the bargain, you had 1,000 people killed. Another example, I said, your sentry is at guard duty at the ammunition dump. I don't aim my rifle at your sentry, but I aim at the ammunition dump. I fire into the ammunition dump blows off and taking your sentry with it. But you, as per your Canadian rules, cannot kill me or fire at me because I never directed my fire at your sentry. It was then that these lawyers understood the anomaly in their understanding of the rules of engagement, as human rights people put it, as books put it, as theory puts it, but it's a different version on ground. And it was then that they agreed to what we wanted in the UN. They went back. The chief was mighty happy. He gave me a call from uh, Ottawa, thanking me for holding his hand because the lawyers had refused to go by what he was trying to explain to them. Another example I'll give you of let's say you see a woman fall into a river. She is struggling for her life. She doesn't know swimming. And you jump in to save her. Now, obviously, she's panicking. She's going to take you down. Her weight has increased. She is a menace to you in trying to save her. What do? Do you go down with her? No. Your wisdom says, knock her off. You give her a tight slap, she becomes unconscious, and then you drag her to safety. Now, would you call that the use of justified force or unjustified force? I leave it to your wisdom. A lot of people or scholars of human rights would probably call it unjustified use of force. To my understanding, is very much justified, for it has saved the life of that woman. So these examples, when I talk of ethics and why the need for them, why certain norms, why understanding. So let's move further. Since conflict is a universal phenomenon, and if conflict cannot be eliminated, it must be contained or curtailed. And towards that goal, the military has a task to perform, which must be beyond anyone's questioning. That is respect for people, respect for human rights, rule of law, protection of civilians, unarmed combatants, safety and protection of art, culture, heritage. These are, when you have these laws of protection and safety, these become the checks and balances for stable, rational decision making by armed military men. And that is why you need the ethics, which provide for such a need. So, thus, when we talk of military ethics, of what is doable, not doable, what can be done and cannot be done, and how to make the undone done, it entails the entire military functioning from A to Z. Your responsibilities to the nation, or rather, I would say the expectations of you from the service and of the service from you, your responsibilities to the nation and its people, and how you negotiate the services through choppy and calm waters. And last but not the least, the accountability as a military officer by way of a leader and manager both in war and peace. When you discharge your duties on parade and off parade, you as an officer are solely accountable for the doings of your men, unlike any other profession in the world, where everyone is answerable for his own actions, his own thoughts, his own doings, his own writings. But no, in the military, as officers, you are solely responsible for what your men do. I am reminded of another example here. I might go slightly beyond the time because if I have to give you examples, it'll take me a little longer. Otherwise, I could have just kept speaking. But it won't serve the purpose unless I keep giving you examples. Same at the UN, once I was attending a class of senior managers, and the lady taking the class, these are all directors and above, about 20 of us. And she asked, what is the most important attribute of senior managers? I, like a good Indian, put my hand up. And she said, yes. I said, accountability. And you won't believe all these other 19 colleagues of mine there jumped on me and says, hey, General, there's nothing called accountability in the UN system. I said, great. This is a paradise for work. I wish I can be here all my life. So this is the ethos or the thinking of people in the civil, where accountability is the last, and to a military man, accountability comes first in all that he does, thinks, and stands for. Having said that, mere physical fitness and mental toughness does not make one a soldier. There's much more to it. It is a process of change through vigorous training of a vast kind on numerous subjects, academic and warlike, all related to the skills of military leadership and the art of war. An actor and his stage make a play. Similarly, in the victory of war, you got to have the soldier and his ethics together. Now, training in the military converts very young, impressionable minds into very disciplined, regimented minds. That becomes a way of life and a second nature. No questioning, but complying to the best they can with what little they have. There's never a no or the use of the word impossible, but only a response of blind obedience. Yes, sir, it will be done and done to the best possible. That is the ethos on which the military works. From the innocence of young, moldable students in the mid teens, you are commissioned as young military officers in the early 20s, loaded with honor of success as officers to become officers. New responsibilities get added to your shoulders. The pride that you take in yourself at having earned a military commission, the badges of rank, which will give you a respectable lifelong identity. The gentleman cadet that you were is no longer a mere civilian anymore, but a soldier and a civilian put together. That is, a soldier citizen, and euphemistically you can call him the citizen soldier. A gentleman first, and then anything else. That's how the Indian Army works, on the principle that you're a gentleman first, and then anything else. Now, nobody is born a soldier, as I said, but you're made to become one. And today, when I stand or sit here in front of you talking in my 70s, and were you to ask me what I think of my past, having gone through the thick and thin of soldiering and its perils and pleasures, I would say proud. Proud to have been one with a tremendous sense of accomplishment and job satisfaction. And is rightly said, once a soldier, always a soldier. For you can take soldiering out of a soldier, but not the identity of a soldier from an individual no longer in uniform. He still remains a soldier in his mind, mannerism, behavior, and thinking. Your rank goes with you to the grave and continues to live in your memory into eternity. In no other profession does your rank ever get prefixed to your name and remain with you beyond your life. It's only in the military. It is incorrect to be seeing the media addressing people of the foreign ministry, the bureaucracy, the politicians as Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Secretary, and so, Mr. DG of the police. No, those are not ranks. Those are appointments when they held in office, and they have shed it when they have left the office. But for a military man, he is addressed by that rank in office, and even when he leaves office and steps out of the uniform, he remains Brigadier so and so. The only word, he gets a suffix after his name now, retired. So it is Brigadier XYZ retired. It is not Brigadier retired XYZ. Your rank never retires. Your rank lives with you even beyond your death. And this is the greatest error that I see of our media men commit, their ignorance. And they ought to get their broadcasts right or go into details before they address military men and other civilians, because that is the wrong form of address. Gives a totally different meaning. You are not an ambassador once you left a country or ambassador's assignment. You're Mr. So and so. You are an ambassador when you're there as an ambassador. Fine. More than that, when what I am today as a person, a responsible citizen, a secular nationalist, a confident, self-reliant individual, and an honest, self-sufficient human being, it is all because of the training and grooming in the values of military ethics, the principles and traits of military leadership, coupled with all the opportunities and experience the profession of arms provided me with. Military men are multinational, multi-racial, multi-ethnical, multi-regional. They're not bottled up in a single mold. They're widely exposed. They're widely traveled. They're subject to frequent change and hence are broad-minded with a far-sight vision and can look beyond the obvious. They approach everything with a mindset, yes, we can do it, we will do it. And so are their families and children who go through the same process of travel, the same life they lead in cantonments, and therefore, I'll very proudly say the children of armed forces parents have been doing very well in life wherever they are, whether they're in India or abroad. Your whole Bollywood is full of children from the services. Your media is full of children whose parents were in the military. So that is what the ethics of military profession inculcate in you the qualities of capability. Now you may well ask me, why did I join the armed forces? What led me to wear a uniform or curtail my freedom to the Army Act and the Army rules, the law, under which you conduct yourself 24/7 by 365, and no room for laxity or demand of one's fundamental rights and private time. There are no Sundays and holidays on active duty. In war, day and night are one. Rather, you work more in the hours of darkness than in bright sunlight. You do not lose your basic rights, but you trade them for the service benefits you get in lieu. So to say that if you join the army, you lose your fundamental rights? No, not at all. Once you wear a uniform, you're looked at differently from the normal citizen and are supposed to be setting an example of civility, concern, care, and enthused confidence and trust in non-competence in civilians, to be the protector or savior from the evil around them. You are looked at with pride and respect and cherished, and that becomes the heralding bugle call for your attraction to the glamour of the uniform. All of you being children, all of you, I'm sure, on your birthdays, some days before you were 10, did wear a uniform or have a tank or an aircraft as your birthday cake. However, there are some, but few in numbers, who think low or dishonorable of the military as a profession. And that is more so out of misperception and unawareness, or because they associate the job with violence, brute behavior, killings, or violations of human rights or obstacles. adverse media propaganda, false imagination that these military men live a life of wine and whim. They could not be more wrong on that. For today's young officers, by and large, are teetotalers. They hardly drink, maybe a few, but most of them don't. And even if they do, it's within the confines of decency. Unlike civilians, when they hit the bottle, they go mad. Nowhere else are women respected more than in the services and by service. And one has to be in the military to know the military or get its feel. It's a world of its own, alien to the civilian way of life. You cannot visualize the military unless you have a feel of it. Military is not virtual, it is real. The reverse of that is also true as much, and hence the need for education on ethics of both sides, civil ethics and military ethics. Now, when we talk of this, what is this human resource? What is the selection of the potential for the armed forces who can do everything? And the word impossible is not in their vocabulary. Having completed schooling, the first competitive exam that comes in the way of any student's life is the UPSC exam for the NDA. You're too young, you're at that impressionable age, you don't want to take a chance, you're full of josh, and you have a try at it. And one more reason, you're so sick and fed up of your studies and cramming that you said, let's take this competitive exam and see if we can get into the NDA, and there'll be no more studies after it. You are tempted. If you're successful, well, you're on your way to the services selection board, and where your potential will be explored for your planning, organizing capabilities, your social adaptability and social effectiveness, which is teamwork, your character traits, sense of responsibility, and your dynamic factor to get a glimpse of the feel of your mental and physical abilities of courage and stamina and stress endurance, both physical and mental. If you make it, well then, you are into the academy for further training. If not, you join college and later try your hand at joining the civil services, finance, politics, corporate sector, whatnot. You have so many professions. If you don't make it at the SSB, it's no stigma, it's no failure. Probably you didn't have the attitude or you were not meant for the military. Let me today tell you, even Morarji Desai, who became the Prime Minister of this country, had gone to a services selection board and didn't qualify. He did become the Prime Minister. So your selection there has nothing to do whether you're a genius or not, whether you are capable of good work or not. It is basically an exploration of your potential to join the armed forces. No one can be more mistaken in wanting to join the armed forces on the ground that it would end your association with folks. That's what we feel when we take the NDA exam. No, it is not so in the least. Just being physically fit and robust or a sportsman does not make you a soldier, as I said. Rather, military profession is full of learning, theory, and practice, indoors and outdoors. Constant upgrading of knowledge, best practices, being abreast with the latest technology, armaments, and the science behind them, trials and errors, study of arts and science subjects both in good measure, behavioral sciences, several courses and examinations for a career uplift you have to go through throughout your military career. And if that being the scenario, it sometimes makes me think, why was I so foolish to join the armed forces? I should have become a doctor, engineer, or a lawyer, or an investment banker. No, that too would be wrong because all that study doesn't go waste. It makes you a well-rounded personality and a jack of all trades. I'll give you an example when I was in the military, and we have a competitive exam, very, very vital, called the Defense Services Staff College within the military. Good about 10,000 officers take it, and the vacancies are only 2,000 at the staff college. And many of our officers, young officers, say, I don't want to take it. I don't want to be a babu. I don't want to do a clerical job. I said the same to my wife when I was just married that time. And she gave me advice. It's a challenge in your profession which you are running away from. I'm not interested in your passing, she told me, but I want you to take that exam so that you do not regret it later. I thought it was very sound advice, a very balancing advice as a spouse of mine. I had a shot and I got through in my very first attempt. And there was never looking back after that. So that what I want to say, that these studies are very handy for your profession and you can't run away from them. Now at the selection centers, we do not select candidates of the two extremes of the bell curve. We select the bulk of the bell curve. We are looking for average material. Hence, you do not have to be a genius either to become a military officer. Nor can you be totally dumb-witted. The good shades of average would suffice to be a military officer. Intellectuals pose risks and are detrimental to good discipline and morale. Pertinent to say here that selection at the services selection boards to the best is very fair, above board, and free of malady. And here I want to give you another example of a young, I was there also at the selection board for good 4 years. And a young boy came to me for selection, and I got to know why talking to him and taking him for his command task. He happened to be the son, I remember his name till now, Khan, of a chief petty officer who was on board, who was serving in the naval ship INS Kukri that was hit by the Pakistanis in the 671 war and sank into the Arabian Sea. He was the only child of his mother. He was a baby of about some months when his father died. And yet, the mother sent this child to the Services Selection Board for a commission in the Navy. I don't think there can be better motivation or aptitude or interest to thirst. And I knew that this boy would have certain psychological problems in his growing, because obviously he grew up without a father. It does affect the child. And I knew the psychologist would probably find him low. And it did happen. Finally, when we went for the conference, the psychologist had given him low marks. And keeping that in mind, I had given him 4 times the marks that he should have got when I tested him, because I wanted to make sure that he joins the Navy. A boy with that much of motivation and determination, a mother has sent her only child whose husband died in war down with the ship into the Arabian Sea. What more do we want? So when we had the conference, I gave this as my canvassing points for this boy, and he was chosen. And today, I'm happy to say he's a Commodore serving in the Navy. Commodore means a brigadier equivalent, and God willing, he'll be a general one day or an admiral and maybe the head of the Navy someday. I wish him good luck. So this is what I want to tell you, that the services selection boards need nobody to court them, to have influence over. The selectors themselves are aware of what potential to look for in the candidates who come to them. I now come to the professional life. Having got your first rank, you're on your own. You're no more a child, no more a cadet. You're no more a student, but you become an adult, military officer. You're an officer first and then anything else now. in addition to being a gentleman. The entire military life hereafter is lived within the credo, which is inscribed at the Chetwood Hall at IMA Dehradun. The safety, honor, and well-being of your country comes first, always, and every time. The honor, welfare, and comfort of the men you command comes next. And your own ease, comfort, and safety comes last, always, and every time. Thus, it is the nation first, the men you command next, and you as a person last in the priorities of military service and the military life. Not all abide by that promise or the saying in the Chetwood Hall. And we do have our share of bad apples, like in any organization anywhere, but they're few in number, negligible. Now, coming to the ethics per se, having given you this whole background, what the military life is, how do you get selected, why do you come to it, what it is all about, let's come down to the ethics and the leadership qualities, attributes, and the principles. The ethics per se, I've already touched a few during the example, but still, I would reiterate them. The core values are honor, loyalty, honor to yourself, the country, loyalty to the nation, your man, and yourself, to your task, duty, apolitical, integrity, maturity, professional and personal, respect for all human beings, motivation, emotions. You must know how to manage your emotion. Gender neutrality. To us, men and women are all the same. There's no difference except physical difference. Service before self, which is selfless service. Play the game is my school motto. And I'm using that word here, play the game, that is being fair, impartial, and just. Courage, accountability, and that is not the end, for they are continuously evolving. Next are the principles and attributes and skills of military leadership. Elaborating on those, the principles would be alignment of self-worth with the job. That is to say, the pride of command and sense of duty that make a leader fight the enemy, unmindful of the safety, unlike in any other profession. A best example here is a flying officer Sekhon. There's a statue of his in Ludhiana. He's from there. In the 65 war, when the radar at Sargodha airfield in Pakistan was hit, detecting all aircraft coming and they were being knocked out by the anti-aircraft guns, his aircraft got hit too. So on his way back, he realized that he won't be able to make it. And we will lose many more aircraft if the radar is not shot or damaged. Flying officer Sekhon turned around, went back, although the orders were no, but he disobeyed those orders in the interest of the nation, the service, and of interest to his fellow beings. He turned around, he went back and dived into that radar, thereby sacrificing his life, the supreme sacrifice for which he was given, the Paramveer Chakra. That is called your alignment of self-worth to your job. Now keep your fluctuating emotions and egos out of the way in whatever you do. You can't let your ego take the better of you. Yes, we all have egos, we all have emotions, but you should be able to handle them, control them. You're matured enough, you've been through that kind of training, you're seasoned, you're acclimatized. You don't let emotions play with you, you play with the emotion. How? I'll tell you later. The unit you are leading is not yours, it belongs to the government, remember. That's a principle. The government didn't create the job for you. No called you for it. It existed for the people of this country, and you went for it by your own choice. So you have no one to complain about or to. You can only complain to yourself about your own choice. The unit and its members will continue to excel even after you leave. Therefore, you must add your bit, make an impact, and move on. Nobody is indispensable in the military. Nobody is a specialist. You find a lot of people come on the media, and the media writes their defense specialists, defense analysts, defense experts. Neither am I. You were introduced as somebody said a specialist and analyst and expert. No, we are not that. We've just done our job, we're experienced people. There's no specialization of, that we are the only counselors. No, we all play our game, move on. And yes, we share our experiences like I'm doing with you now. The unit and its members will continue to excel, as I've said, and you make your impact and move on. Others will come take over from you. Rather, you should make way for your youngsters and juniors to come. Don't keep sitting there with your gray hair, blocking others to step into your shoes. We have to make room. This country is so big with so many people with so few jobs. Display a passion for the work, enthusiasm to do the best. Leadership is all about solving problems. You are paid for decision making. The day soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you have stopped leading. They have lost trust and faith in you. And therefore, the military is all about doing. Everything is possible. There's nothing called impossible in the military. And that possibility comes from decision making for yourself and for others. The commander in the field, remember, the man in the show window, he gets priority over everything. The rear echelons come next. And the day the man on the front line has to look over his shoulders for support, then the support echelons are at fault and they are wrong. And the best of plan, operational plan, will be the one best supported. Administration and logistics are as vital as operational plans. You find a lot of military men saying, or they take pride, oh, I'm an operational man. I'm not a logistician, I'm not an administrator. No, it cannot be in divided compartments. We have to have rounded personalities who have to understand logistics, administration to be able to launch operations. And to be able to launch operations, you should know Adam and logistics, what you should ask for and what you can get in support and use it to the best possible. Therefore, administration and logistics at one time was not considered important and vital in military training and courses, but today it is. And to give you an example here, I still remember when I got my posting too, after my command of battalion, I was sent to a logistics assignment and I was shaken. I went and told my boss where I landed up. So I don't even have a clue of administration logistics. I've been posted here. And he said, son, don't worry. I was like you when I came here, another infantryman, a very decent, well, responsible, understanding person. Don't get alarmed. Learn from these people from the administrative units and logistics unit. They're very keen to teach you. Take your time, take 3 months, ask them as much as you can. They'll tell you everything, they'll expose themselves to you. And you'll be a qualified logistician after that. And sure enough, I did it. And then I had these people dancing to my fingers. So you could play the game with them, having mastered the game from them. An operational man, if you have to cross the river Chenab, will put an arrow, the only river with the only bridge for you to get into J&K to face the Pakistanis. They'll put an arrow on a map and say the river's crossed. It doesn't happen that way. With the only bridge and so many formations to go across. You've got to work out the time and space. It will take you hours and days. It may be too late. And therefore, that becomes logistics is factual, a game of numbers. And to do that arithmetic, people are shy and therefore they stay away. But you can't do without it. It reminds me of another example I'll tell you. Generally, in all military stand model rooms, you find people write administration novels. When it comes to the administration requirement, there's an Adam normal. So we had a stand model in my division. I was the colonel administration. We had the GOC who was the DIP commander. He told me he'll take the operational requirement, you'll take the logistics. Fine, it was as per our job. We had syndicate leaders who were all brigadiers, 5 of them, with the co-commander who was sitting in that stand model that come to witness it. So when it came to the administrative logistics requirement, I said, gentlemen, I hope you're comfortable, taken care of, you're getting hot water, good food, nice bed you've got, rooms, everything fine. I hope you're happy. Let's come to the requirement. So what is the administration for this operation, for the logistics support? Brigadier 1 stood up, 2 stood up, 3, 4, 5. All 5 stood up and had no answer, silent. And finally, I had to remark, gentlemen, I hope you realize how abnormal is normal Adam. They had all given me an answer, administration normal, and I had to tell them how abnormal is normal Adam. But none of them knew the answer to get across River Chenab to fight the enemy in the Rajouri Poonch sector. It was then that the co-commander lost his shot. He called off the requirement for the day and he said, we will extend this hand model by another day and tomorrow you'll be back again having done this requirement. Sure enough, they sat the whole night. They were there with their answers next day. So what I was trying to tell you, you can't neglect any facet of military war, be it operations, Adam, logistics, human resource, human consideration, technology, nothing. They all play their role. Next, the most important, nothing happens without example. And the best is set yours to be the first, to be seen as a role model, to be followed blindly into the line of fire where death is an imminent probability. All your heroes who won Ashoka Chakra, Paramveer Chakra, and all gallantry awards are the best examples. Your Captain Batra in Kargil who said, Dil mange more. Having conquered one peak, he wanted more. He did conquer it, but with the sacrifice of his life. That is leadership. That is setting an example. A milder one I'll give you, of my own again. Having commanded a battalion as a lieutenant colonel, we used to have lieutenant colonel commands. Later on, it became full colonel. So since I was available on staff, I was asked if I would like to go back and command again as a full colonel. And then I was sent to Dehradun to command my battalion for the second time. It was a different battalion, my own. And the brigade commander said, I don't want commanding officers who are full colonels to be running the battle physical efficiency test in full battle order. First command, I was 35, now I was 42 years of age, older. He says, I don't want COs to run, I don't want the Sukdam Major to run. Sukdam Major is the oldest amongst the non-officers, the JCOs and the men. So I said to myself, would it be fair? He's good enough, he said that, but would it be fair on my part as a commanding officer not to run? Although I'm 42, I decided to run. I did run. I was the last man of those 1,000 people running. Right behind was me with my battle order. Everybody else, obviously, young soldiers, young officers, they were all ahead of me. But the fact that I ran Not a soldier came behind me. Many came in the excellent and good category, and the balance came into the satisfactory, in which I also came. So we all passed. The whole battalion passed, not a single failure. The commander could not believe it. He thought because the CO was running, they must have decreased the distance 2 miles. He got a scooter, put it, adjusted the mileage to zeros, went on the scooter with one of my officers, did the round and came back and saw it was exact 2 miles. And then he brought 3 cases of rum and gave it to the battalion as a gift. All because the CO ran. So when you have to set an example, your rank should not come in your way. Your age should not come in your way. You are commanding. You do what will make your men do better than what you can do. So, having given you that example, do not forget the basics is another principle and keep repeating them to refresh. The basic foundation cannot change, though the superstructure can have any look. The basics matter. The tiny invisible pixels make the picture. Nothing is possible unless your basics are right. And I'm a great believer in that, and I want to re-emphasize in whatever profession you be, always be in touch with the basics. That is the foundation. Be consultative. Encourage participation. Good ideas have no rank bearing. All minds are very sharp. The younger the mind, the more sharp it is. Mine is ancient. My thinking cannot be as sharp as a young second lieutenant. And therefore, always in any conference, meetings, briefings, plans, be you in corporate or be you in the military, get your team together. Don't just get the top echelon. Get the whole unit together, all your officers who matter, people who run the show, and then consult them, share your ideas, get ideas from them. It'll give a sense of involvement. They'll be able to read your mind ahead. You don't have to keep correcting your orders. They will apply the correction. And therefore, it's very vital that you be consulted, and encourage participation. Now, leadership is not a thing, a project, or an event. It's a long-term relationship. It's a family you create. And you live for that family. Another very, very good example is that of the same INS Kukri, the ship that was sunk by the Pakistanis in the 1971 war. Captain Mullah was the captain of the ship. He tried to offload as many soldiers into the light boats that they had, but not all could go because the boats could not come back for a second trip. And then he was told by his officers and his men, "Sir, you come now. Come with us. You have to come. You are a commander." He realized no. He told his other officers, "Those who want, please jump on to the light boats and move." Many did not because the captain was still there. And finally, he sat on the captain's chair, lit a cigarette, and went down with the ship. That's called leadership again. Excellence of leadership. Excellence of relationship with his men, his ship, his duty, his resource. Remember, men will love you for your eccentricity. You are a demigod to them. You are a figurehead. And if you can sacrifice your life, they will give you their life any day, 24 hours, around the year, in any circumstances, however tough the battle is. Captain Batra and many more youngsters like him, the 500 young officers we lost in Kargil, are example of that. Never let the sun go down on a soldier's dignity, pay, or family. They have tremendous problems. Men from rural areas, suburbs, they don't get the respect any longer what they used to during British days. The British knew how to lead. They left behind a pedigree of good Indian officers also who knew how to lead. But now, with time, things have changed. And today's soldier, coming from the suburbs, is not shown the same respect and izzat as what a DC or collector used to show in good old days. Time when I joined as a youngster to the time I was as a colonel, my first 20 years of my service. Therefore, you've got to be more attentive to a soldier's needs today as an officer. That his dignity is not lowered, his problems are attended to. And let me tell you that the biggest moral damper is the separation of the soldier from his family. Because he cannot attend to their problems, he cannot attend to his family. He's far away, he can't reach them. Therefore, you've got to act as a substitute to help him come out of it. Ask him, get to know his problems, his needs, write to the DC, write to the commissioner, write to the chief minister, have his problems solved. And the biggest example is the OROP case. We all know, we've heard of it. We haven't got our OROP yet. We've been given a one-time hike, not one rank, one pension yet. Everyone talks of it, lip service. This is how you degrade the promises that you give your soldiers. Today, you find all sundry security guard, police, wearing the military badges of rank, the military accoutrements of uniform that the soldiers wear. In so doing, you are degrading the military ranks. A security guard at your house, standing with a PCAP belt, lanyard, stars, is not an officer of what the Indian government produces from the academy to fight for the country. These security guards will run away the first thief that comes to your house. But they wear that uniform as a disgrace to the soldier and his dignity. Take care of little things, and big things will take care of themselves. As I said, the small picture makes the bigger picture. Attention to details, etc. Again, another example, when we went to Somalia, over a month period, we had 32 trains move from all over the country, bringing soldiers and equipment, vehicles, going to two ports, Delhi for transfer by air and to Bombay for movement by sea. All the men came to Delhi, the equipment went to Bombay. From there, they went by 9 ships, and from here by 22 jumbo flights across 4,500 nautical miles of the Indian Ocean into Africa, and further 500 miles into the hinterland against violence, against enemy fire. Not a pin was lost, not a soldier was wounded. All because of coordination and details that were attended to. The arrival of ships, the arrival of aircraft was so timed that you had everyone reach to be able to unload the ships on arrival and load them before they left. That is the kind of meticulous planning and coordination that we have to do. And what we say, take care of little things and every minor detail. The core function of every military organization is to develop leaders. And therefore, in whatever you do, you must always keep in mind that you are imparting education. As I said, brief your teams together. Brief, explain. You don't have to punish. Punishment comes even after the last act of your last authority. You don't mend people by punishing, you mend people by correcting, by explaining to them. Everything takes 8 times longer as you then what you think it would. And therefore, you don't have to panic. Give enough time for things to happen. Don't be in a hurry. In the military, we are always in a hurry. And that is the biggest flaw that I find. Where is the hurry when there is no war? Even in war, shouldn't act in a hurry. Act sensibly and in the right time frame. No one has ever brought victory home by dying for his country, said General Patton, the American field marshal. He said, you win wars when you make the adversary die for his country, and he was very right in that. Your life is valuable to your country. You kill the enemy to win a war. You decrease his fighting capability. You decrease his resistance. And that's how you reach the enemy's post and win it. Not that you are killed en route to his post. No, reach his post and kill him. That he doesn't get back to his country to live another day to fight another war. A leader is omnipresent and leadership is not a void. The chair is never empty. Your deputy should always step in, and for him to step in immediately, there's a need for your deputy to be in real time synchronization with you. And that can only happen when you discuss together as teammates. You don't have to have an ego problem. He's your junior, but he's the best counselor for you, almost your seniority and age. Discuss with him. Discuss with your deputy general manager as manager of a firm. Don't show your authority. Authority showing is very easy, done by weak people, not by confident, secure people. Trust is the bedrock of mission accomplishment. Trust your men, trust your seniors, trust your subordinates, trust your job, trust your resources. Trust the locals, trust your information. Trust, everything begins with trust. The day you don't trust, you cannot make a beginning. Mission creeps should be no deterrence. You cater for them when you plan. The failure of the Americans in Somalia was, and the alibi they use, are mission creeps. They failed to plan properly. They failed to think ahead. Mission creeps is nothing but contingencies that come up which you haven't thought of. But if you had thought of them, you would be able to attend to them. Information should be acquired and shared. It is not your personal property. It's not your private property either. And the best example is Kargil. We were surprised. Very recently, Eastern Ladakh, we were surprised. 70 years we know who our adversaries are on both sides, East and West, and yet we get surprised. It amazes me how little we know of our adversary. Therefore, right information from the right source, from agencies are many, from every agency, it must all come, be collated, interpreted properly, analyzed, and acted upon. You can't keep it to yourself. Information kept is dangerous. Leaders must be immune to surprise, as I've just given you an example. People matter, be it yours or theirs. For example, when Pakistanis in Kargil lost and left behind their soldiers, the Indians did take care and give them a proper military burial. There can't be a better example of military ethics again. Once a soldier is dead, he's a soldier. He was your enemy when he was alive. He's fighting you as a soldier, his profession. He's killing you because you are killing him. If you don't kill him, you get killed. But he is a soldier. You respect him, and if he dies, you adore him. You give him a decent burial. So people matter in morale raising, in the achievements, in the accomplishments, the missions, in the ability to perform and do, in the possibility that things should be done properly. The Bible of military ethics is the Constitution and the Geneva Convention, and you uphold both. The law of the land is above the military. Military law is not above the law of the land. Yet, at the same time, it pains me to see the judiciary of ours pass strictures on army actions, and I call that sacrilege to the motivation, training, and dedication of our soldiers. Nobody wants to violate laws, not soldiers. But you can't have wars fought on ground by a theory or interpretation of books. Book is just a guideline. Situations are millions on the ground. And you have to act to the situation. And that's what our judiciary doesn't realize. That is why soldiers should never be used for peacetime soldiering, where the people who have to provide justice to soldiering have no knowledge of it. When operating in other countries, like we send people to UN, peacekeeping forces, or multinational task forces, remember you are an alien and a second-class citizen in that country. People there come before you as and are first to their country. They have their ownership rights. They come before you and involve them in all that you do. You haven't gone there as an occupational army of World War II. It's a new generation, new times. You go there to assist people in intrastate conflicts. It's not interstate, intrastate, within the country. Now, what are the leadership attributes? The skills that can be defined. Knowledge, well, you should be adept in it, far advanced, acquire as much as you can, be well informed. Foresight and visionary, as I said, leave nothing to chance. Operational, tactical, and technical proficiency, you should be current with it. Innovativeness to bring about surprise on the enemy. I personally am not an SOP man. I even hear today the word SOP being used on TV, media, politicians, and government. Earlier it was only a military term. But I'm deadly against SOPs. SOPs restrict your thinking and your initiative and ingenuity. SOPs are prepared of one situation figured by the writer at a particular time of one circumstances that are around. But life doesn't move on that one particular episode. So SOPs should only be guidelines. Thereafter, the situation will demand how you work, how you act, provided it's justified. Sound and timely decision making, we already spoke of it, and it should be in such a way that it is accepted by your senior. I remember when I was going to Somalia, I asked for women as part of my contingent, and I was told no by the army. Obviously, the government said no, we can't send women. Women had never been overseas for peacekeeping, but I needed them. So what do I do? Okay, fine. We reached Somalia. Having reached a week later, I sent a signal. Desperately need women. Sure enough, they acted. They understood my desperation, and they came in by the last flight. I told you we were there for a month of induction. And these women who came became the backbone of the Indian Brigade's success. We worked with them, with the local women of Somalia, to get their men move away from the bush and not remain involved in conflict with each other. These women went out of their way, working day in and day out like men. I remember being women. As a commander, I said the sanitation needs are different. So I must provide for it. I went searching for a barrack, and we did find one. I had 11 of these women. I said, why don't you move into the barrack? You'll need privacy, okay, toilets, etc. And the tentage in which you are housed is not good enough. And you know what these women told me? No, sir. We will stay with the men in tents, with them, along with them, and we'll rough it up. I saluted them. I said, I did my duty of looking after you, providing you with your needs, basic needs that you need. You've done me the honor of upholding my position that I have shown no difference between the men and women. Hats off to you women. That is the capability and the strength of Indian women. And today we debate, should we have them in the armed forces or not have them? Why not? You had Rani Lakshmi Bai, you had Razia Sultan. All these women lead men into battle. What is it that stops you now from having women into the armed forces, even in combat role? Yeah, there's a danger to their personal bodies if they become prisoners. But that's their own choice. Explain to them. And yet, if they want to join combat, let them. It's their choice, their right. If they can be raped, men are also raped. Not that I'm advocating it. There are other ways to attend to it, but I'm just saying these logics that come up. No, you cannot have them. If they become prisoners, they'll be humiliated. Leave it to them. They know best. But to use them as soldiers is very much a possibility, and they are of great utility. When I was in the NSG, in the Black Cat Commandos, we introduced women as sky marshals. Because we said, a terrorist will always be looking out for a man as a sky marshal. Why not have women? After all, women also travel by aircraft. For better secrecy is better if sky marshals are women. And sure enough, we trained some women and they did an excellent job. But to my horror, I realize now they've done away with that again. I don't know why. Why do we undo systems which were put in for the betterment of the security in the nation? Well, let me move further. Now lead by example and play by emotion, which I told you I'll talk of emotions later. You can't let emotions take the better of you. Reasoning at times can be counterproductive. If a man is to see the logic of what can happen to him going into assault across a minefield, he may succumb to his own fears. Hence, fogging logic, emotions have to be invoked to get him out of his defensive posture. And that is not emotions getting better of him, but now you are playing emotions to charge him up, to charge him in the name of Izzat. Izzat to him, his flag, his country, his unit, his family. And they do that. We have a system called war cries and battle cries. When he forgets everything and he charges the enemy, shouting, Bol Hindustan ki jai, Durga Ma ki jai, whatever, Gurkhali ayo, Ala re ala, Maharala. That moment when he forgets himself as a human being and only knows that he has to get on to the enemy post and pen at the enemy. So you have to use the emotions to your advantage too, and not the emotions take the better of him out of fear. You got to be alert, vigilant, stop, look, listen, take a step back and then strike, and strike hard with all the power you have. Be sharp and shrewd to win over the enemy. A judicious use of resources, cater for reserves and backup. Time management is very, very important. Avoid the tendency to take the last bus home. Why not take the first bus? It'll be too late by the time you reach. So you got to manage your time. Time management is very much a requirement in every organization. Train subordinates for self-enhancement as a team. Here again, I want to give you an example. A commanding officer takes the tests of people who have to become JCOs, junior commissioned officers, from non-commissioned officers. I was on my way out my last month and I was conducting the test in my battalion. We had 22 of these NCOs. 20 passed, 2 I failed. Those 2 come to me and say, sir, you failed us. I have been a wrestler fighting for the battalion, all my wrestling matches. How do you expect me to do everything? I can be either a wrestler or a soldier. It made sense to me. The other guy also said, "Sir, I've always been first in shooting. You failed me." Again, I thought, well, we have to have gladiators. If we can't do everything, they're not superhumans. So what do I do? I said, okay, I'll send you for your weapons course and I'll send you for your platoon commander's course to Mao. If you do very well and you pass, your failure in these two subjects get exempted. And then I had moved off. I also went to Mao only on posting. I was there. I didn't speak to anyone, neither did I meet them. Finally, when their courses ended, they came to me and you know what the news? The boy who came for weapons training topped the course. The boy who went for platoon commanders got the best grade. That is motivation to themselves, the will to do better, and all 22 became JC. Now, my successor who came, he was quite cut off with me. He says, "Sir, you've made all 22 people JCOs. What will I do in my term?" I said, "No, they haven't become JCOs. That is only one condition of passing these tests. They yet have their reports to be read. They have to perform. If they don't perform, the reports are in your hands. They won't become JCO. But knowing that they have passed a test, they jolly well will perform on their own better than what you can expect. And their motivation gets enhanced. Otherwise, they are losers themselves." So understand the psychology behind it. And he got it. And sure enough, I learned later that he did likewise in his command. So you have to encourage and make sure that your subordinates are given all chances of enhancement and promote it. Promote their urge. Provide them the opportunity. Explain tasks coherently and check back. Even follow up on your orders. But if you don't, they're never implemented. If you don't check back, you'll have mishaps. And especially soldiers, they're not so well educated to be able to comprehend what you want. And neither do you have the time to go into details of explanation. Therefore, you should be very, very coherent. If you're being briefed, check. You'll never fail. And finally, I come to adaptability, cooperation, considerate, empathy, and team player should be one of your attributes as a leader. It's sad to hear politicians in our country. Somebody had made a remark some time back. Say, "Oh, we pay the army for fighting, for dying." These are not mercenaries. You don't make such loose statements over the media. You are discouraging the valor and the bravery of our soldiers. Speak with sense when you're a politician. Don't discourage your soldiers, encourage them. Be physically and mentally robust. Have the moral, physical courage, and courage of conviction. Courage of conviction comes above everything. I can give you several examples, but I'll run out of time. Therefore, I'll miss out on some examples. We'll see later during question and answers. Other excellent examples of courage of conviction. Be meticulous in documentation of your men because their life and their service career depends on it. An area which we generally neglect. Adept in performance evaluation, particularly of officers. Guard against the error of contrast. I can do it, so why can't he do it? No, that's not how you look at it. I could walk 20 miles, I was made to walk 20 miles. Why can't these youngsters of today do it? No, that's not the way you look at it. Evaluate them for their performance objectively, with no ties, no relationship of your regiments which they belong to, look at them with a fair eye as equals and only judge their merit based on their performance. It's a highly technical job. I even remember giving an example when I was an instructor at the College of Combat, War College. The commander said for the alpha grading, which is the highest, we must have a limited number of vacancies, say 10 or 11 out of a course of 300. And I was his DS coordination because I had the longest term there. I said, I beg your pardon, sir. If all 300 deserve to get an alpha grading, they should get it. If none of them deserve, they should be failed. But why have a number at random, a very petty, meager number of 10 to 11, and say we should not have more than 11 alphas? And that is how the army used to work in good old days. Why do we put restrictions of performance on merit on our youngsters? Give them the freedom to do their best and reward them for it, even if it be 100% result. Recognize merit. Be liberal in your recognizing people for recommending people for awards. We act as though we are giving it from our pocket, stingy, miser. They put in so much, this, put their lives to the greatest of risk, and we give a paltry number of awards. However, I have the proud privilege under my command as a GOC when I was a general, Ashoka Chakra I gave up. He got it from the government, but I recommended him. When I was in NSG Akshardhan, I recommended again a man for Ashoka Chakra. He got it. So I have the privilege of giving the country two Ashoka Chakras. I feel happy in that. I feel magnanimous, joy. Why should I be a stingy and feel frustrated? Petty. No, that's not the job of leadership. That's not how you get people to do things. That's not how you bring possibility into impossibility. You got to think big, you got to act big. And finally, you got to be above religion and your political beliefs. Army is your religion and men are your beliefs. That is the motto which you should have. So finally, in nutshell, to recapitulate, the army warrior ethos of I will always place the nation first, I will never accept defeat, I will never quit, I will never leave a fallen comrade behind, I will never harm an innocent, or in other words, the army's culture of selfless service, teamwork, and respect for humanity are the pillars on which you build your structure, your name, your reputation. Now, coming to a few general points. A morale. Generally, you hear chiefs or the army head saying morale is high. No chief is ever going to say morale is low. It'll be wrong as a politician for me to even ask a chief, how's the morale of the army? He'll always say, good, sir. If he says not good, he'll be sacked. But that's not how you judge it. As a good, shrewd politician, develop your inputs, get your feedback from various sources, feel the pulse. There are many ways of feeling it. And even as the head of the organization, give the right feedback to the government for them to take the right welfare measures. For example, as I said, you can't equate military ranks. I spoke of ranks, accoutrements, security guards wearing everything. And once they start wearing the dresses similar to military people, they start equating themselves. The Joint Secretary equates himself to a Major General, a Director to a Brigadier, IG Police to a Major General, a DGP to Army Commander. Army Commander with 38 years service DG police with 24 years service is equating himself. A DG of a small state to an army command of 25,000 men under his command. There is no equation, there's no comparison to the military ranks, the responsibility to those ranks, the authority in those ranks, to what you do in civil. Yes, you have your authority, you have your privileges, you have your authority as the DG police, as the secretary of a particular ministry, as a politician, as an ambassador. But you can't say that I'm wearing the same badges of rank which look like a brigadier, so I'm equal to a brigadier. No, that's not how you equate. In fact, all these people started wearing these ranks and then started imagining they were them. And that's why there's so much of difference of accountability. As I said, you are accountable for every action of your soldier. Police is not. A secretary of the IS is not. A foreign affairs, Minister of External Affairs official is not. A politician is not. It's only the military man. And that is why he has that cross on his shoulders, to remind him of his responsibility. And saluting is again, it has a military connotation. When a junior salutes his senior, he says, "Sir, order understood. It will be complied with." That's what the salute means. And when the senior salutes back in acknowledgement, he says, "Well done, good. I will stand by you now till you comply this order to the best you can, and I will give you all support." That is what that salute indicates, to and fro. It is not just Jai Ram Ki. And that is why military never salutes civilians, not even the President of India, who is a civilian. Although we say he's the commander-in-chief, but he doesn't wear a uniform. He's not responsible for any military decision making. He's not an effective supreme commander like the President of the US. And therefore, military salutes only the military. So you understand the value of the salutes, the dress, the accoutrements, the badges of rank, and the jobs you do, whether they have any equivalent in any other organization. They don't. When are we going to understand all this? Never. Why do the Americans understand it? Because every American president has served in the military, in Vietnam. Till recent time, of course, Bill Clinton didn't and Obama didn't. Times have changed now. But till the time of President Clinton, every American president had served the military. They understand the military. And as I said, you got to be in the military to know the military. You can't imagine. They have empathy. They respect, value, and honor their military. Every president of the US, when he dies, he is buried in the Arlington Cemetery, which is the war memorial and war cemetery of the American Armed Forces. With pride, they want to be buried there. And here in India, we are today questioning the disability of our officers and soldiers. What a shame. You heard of General Cardozo, General Oberoi. They are men without a leg. General Cardozo had chopped off his leg with a kukri when he was a young officer in the war with Pakistan. And these very two gentlemen have climbed the highest mountains with one leg, performing their duty as invalids, as disabled soldiers, yet as good as any physically fit and robust soldier. And we want to deny them the disability allowance? What morale boosting are you doing? I ask of you. I'm not begging on behalf of them. It only shows how much of respect we show to the sacrifice of a soul. The day you let your soldier down, he'll let you down. Nations that have not honored their veterans and their serving soldiers have never gone far. They've never made it to the tape where you finish the race. They give up halfway. No nation remains stable until he respects the men in arms. The military is the backbone of the government for a stable democracy. I come to military wives, the spouse. Do they have a role to perform? A lot of people say, even some military men tell their wives, oh, don't bother, you don't come under the Army Act. Yes, she doesn't come under the Army Act, but she's part of the military fraternity. She enjoys all the privileges and perks. She is a responsible woman. She looks after the women. The CEO's wife looks after the women of all men, the families of all the men and officers when they go to war. She's the one, the last to cry, while others cry, even if she loses her husband. She is the motivating factor. She has a lot of responsibilities of her own, not written anywhere, but by way of tradition, by way of ethics. And hence, she is respected. The Armed Forces Special Powers Act I was talking of has been made too political and misinterpreted by media and the human rights folks, and even our politicians who have not understood it, particularly like Mr. Chidambaram, I don't hesitate naming him, who had said it should be removed, being the Home Minister when he was there. The Armed Forces Special Power Act is not meant for us. It's given to us to protect civilians against intimidation from the terrorists. There can't be a better provision. You can't wait for the courts to send you a magistrate in the warfield, in battlefield, in insurgency areas. They don't tag along with you, the judiciary. So you are given these special powers to be for immediate action. A terrorist becomes a non-terrorist in the fraction of a second. All he has to do is throw his weapon into a bush and he's not non-terrorist after that. Split of a second, he's a non-terrorist. So what do? You get a fraction of a second to deal with it. And that is where the Armed Forces Special Powers Act comes, for you to take immediate decisions on people who are violating the security of this country and terrorizing the innocent citizens. That is the meaning of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. And the fault is ours, the military. We have not been able to explain it to the public, to the media. We are so shy to put across how its utility. And the best I can remember of it is a WhatsApp post which is floating around of a sea turtle with his shell. That shell is the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, in which the turtle withdraws for his safety and comes out to do whatever he wants to. Similarly, that shell provides the civilians too with the safety. When terrorists come and intimidate them or use them as human shields against the military. Therefore, to my mind, it is a very, very potent weapon for the safety of civilians. If you feel it's not needed, well, then the military has done its job. Pull the military out. Why are you keeping the military in this insurgency area? If you have to have the military, you have to give them these judicial powers. Next, I come to publicity and media interaction, public relations by the military. Transparency is vital, interaction is vital, knowledge is vital, and it's not the domain only of senior officers to be interacting with the media. Rather, let everyone act. You get a cushion. A Jawan saying something wrong, you as the officer will always correct it. But a Lieutenant General saying something wrong, without knowing what to say, you cannot correct it. It's just like many MPs make very absurd statements, like someone has just done yesterday. Who's going to correct it? Therefore, you have to provide media education to your politicians, to your bureaucrats, to your senior military officers, and to every soldier, how to deal with, and to the media men. My TV is there, that's why I'm pointing towards that. The media men have no knowledge of the armed forces. They're coming out with so many howlers giving you on this news on Eastern Ladakh. And they come emotionally charged as the war is about to break out the next moment, or they want war. No, you don't invite war for peace. As they say, truth is the first casualty in war. I cannot emphasize more on that. The information coming of Eastern Ladakh is still hazy. We don't know whether it's Chinese or this side, that side, where on ground. Who knows what the truth is? And therefore, do not be shy of the media. In a democracy, use it as a force multiplier. Use the media to your advantage. Welcome it as a team player. Take the media along with you. If you don't, they are craving for information. They'll go to wrong people. They'll generate information. They'll imagine. They'll give you false reporting. And to give you an example, when we went to Akshardham, we had taken Barkhadat and others of the media with us. We set up a control center there and we gave them all the media briefs every half an hour to 1 hour. They can't wait for the 2 or 3 hours. They need it immediately. But that's the folly of media. Things don't happen immediately. Everything takes time. You can't have breaking out news coming every second. News doesn't break out like that. Be matured, be sensible. That's what our media has to learn. The ethics of media are being violated. Military diplomacy is another new phenomenon these days. People talk of it, but there's nothing new. All Maharajas used to use the military as their emissaries, their generals to go and carry out negotiations over deals of war and peace. You've seen it in movies, you've seen it live, you heard of it, you read it in history. It is a wrong belief of our bureaucrats, particularly of the foreign ministry or external affairs, that military men have no clue of diplomacy. For the best presidents of nations the world over have been former military men. USA, as I told you, every president served in the military. France, President de Gaulle, the best they had. UK, Yugoslavia, Marshal Tito, a name by himself. The name lives today. President Nasser of Egypt, Colonel Nasser. President Sukarno of Indonesia. All these were military men who guided the destiny of their nations and to a bright destiny, prosperity. I would even go to the extent, why don't we have a track of negotiation between the two chiefs of India and Pakistan? Has anyone ever suggested that let these two chiefs have a dialogue with each other? If the two directors of RAW can talk, the DGMOs can talk on a hotline, what is the problem in the two chiefs talking to each other? It won't be worse than what it is today. It can only be better. If they were to go and play badminton together, as General Rodriguez used to play and maybe his counterpart, probably they would solve problems on the badminton court. May not. No harm done. You at least had an attempt. Or there'll be understanding of the two chiefs, which will be needed post-war or during war. So use military men even for diplomatic efforts. As I said, the military can wear a uniform and a suit. And suit is for white collar jobs. But a diplomat cannot wear a uniform. He doesn't know the technical skills of soldiering. Soldiering is a very technical profession too. And that is why I'm against accoutrements and equivalent of ranks, etc., with people who are non-military. For the reasons I've given you. Coming to women in the armed forces, I've already touched upon it and told you. Compulsory military service, to my mind, is a necessity for our democracy. We have to discipline our masses. promote a healthy living and work culture. The ethics of military profession are very relevant to all professions with a modification in milder tones. And any amount of limited military service would do all the corporates good, would do the government good. Functioning in all offices will become disciplined. Democracy cannot be free for all. It needs some rules, some regulation, discipline, compliance, character, rule of the law, gender parity. Military training can set the pace for it. A democracy or democratic society also has to abide by the ethics of decorum and civic sense, and that can be provided by military training. Are we special? Once again, I ask this question. Who isn't? Yes, we do have our special ways, but we see ourselves at parity with all. We are not special. I hear some chiefs, ex-chiefs come and talk, we are special, so we should get OROP. No, that's not logic. That is no reasons of arguments for getting OROP. Everybody is special. A teacher is special, a doctor is special, a truck driver is special, a metro driver is special, a pilot is special. Everybody in every service and organization is special, and so are you. You are special only for the job you do in a special way, which is unique to you. And therefore, demand ORP based on that speciality, the conditions of service which are different to others. You retire early, you are still young, you are a trained force available, you are a resource which can be of an asset to the country. Your children are still young, you are in cantonments far from downtowns and city centers. You have a life which is nothing but mobility. Your expenditure is too heavy. So many reasons that you can make a case. But to say you are special is no argument. And nobody is special. The worst example of military ethics, no better than our neighbors on the west, Pakistan. And what happened in Kargil and what has happened in Pakistan all along, the military coups. And as they say, the Pakistani army owns Pakistan, not the country owning the Pakistan army. They are coup stagers. They benefit themselves as soldiers, and therefore they're keeping this conflict between our two countries going on the front burner. The day it moves to the back burner, their relevance is lost in Pakistan. So they are the worst examples of military ethics. And while we are the finest, and believe me, having been in the UN as I have for 15 years, we are respected, honored, trusted, and admired for being the best in following the commandments of military ethics. We do it better than the Americans. Americans have technology, they do fight well, but we fight with ethics. We fight with respect for humanity. We respect our laws of humanitarian law. We respect and protect civilians. That is the difference between American soldiers and we. We are the finest army in the world. Yet, I'm very sorry to say, we don't have the finest leadership, both military and those who have to assist the military from the government. They're yet to mature to handle this finest army of the world. And finally, post-military, I would say we are wasting a very, very trained human resource. We are losing value and devaluing a military profession which can be of great use to this country. Use these people In every field, you will have trained, disciplined people. You won't have the unions that you have. We don't let you work. A parliament doesn't run for days together because there's no military ethics anywhere. There's no discipline. They don't know what debates are when you're fighting, arguing over the TVs in debates. That's not a debate. Fighting, you man, tu man, finding fault, personality, fighting with each other, calling names. That's not a debate. So, since veterans make the best citizens of civil society, do respect them, do use them, don't waste the resource on which you spend so much of money of your national exchequer. I also would like to add here, I see no reason why short service commission officers and women in short service, for that matter, both men and women, and even emergency commission officers, many of them who've gone home were not given permanent commission. 10 years you use them and then send them home. Isn't somebody in the military for 10 years better than a novice? Somebody you're getting raw and fresh to someone on whom you spend so much of time and money and in training him to be a military man? There's no logic. There's no reasoning for that. All of them should be given their permanent commission, yes, with adjustments of whatever was the shortfall of training. And finally, in conclusion, the day I finished my military service, my last day when I came home, I was surprised with my wife, my child, and my helpers standing at the door with a bouquet, clapping when I came home. I said, "What's happened?" They said, "Today is your last day in the military, and from tomorrow starts a new era. One era is over, a world of its own, and from tomorrow is going to be a different world." Very right. As I said, you got to be in the military to know the military. It's only when you step out of the military would you know what the civilian world is. Totally different world. It's a Gemini circus out there. And unless you know how to be in the ring in that circus and be with your other players, will be a misfit. A new life from what you had earlier, totally cocooned, insulated, being taken care of. Now you have to take care of yourself. You have to stand in the queue now for everything. It takes days to get your jobs done to what used to happen with just fraction of a second. You just whispering and it was done. And finally, I asked myself, or I would say you may like to ask me, would I send my son or daughter to earn a commissioned rank in the Indian Armed Forces with the experience that I have? Armed Forces? Yes, I would. Indian Armed Forces? Not yet. Not yet for the simple reason, as I've told you, our caretakers within the military and the government have yet to mature in trying to understand our military and provide it the best it can to do its best to make the impossible possible and to live by the reputation that it enjoys in the world's finest army. As the sun sets and my boots are not hung up but discarded, never to be worn again, did I end well, or was there something left to do, or to be done more, or could have been done better? My answer is more, not at all. But better? Yes, I could have done something better, given a second chance. But the irony is, there is no second chance in war or in the military. There are no runners up. You either win or lose. Thus, as the retreat is sounded on the bugle, you come home with your gains and losses, not to be viewed in hindsight, but to be elated with the experience that they put in you for the future. Learning never ends. The ethics do not fade away. Military leadership ceases to be and makes way for memorable nostalgia, a deja vu of contentment, of having done your bit to the best you could under the circumstances. Mission accomplished. And with that, I would say that the military man can make the impossible possible. He can undo the impossible to make it possible. And the best tribute that can be given to the ethics of military profession and the OLQ of military leadership, officer-like qualities, that is soldiering in the broad sense, is the inscription on the epitaph stone at the Kohima War Cemetery and Memorial. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. You lived in the ethics of what the military profession is all about. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure sharing my views with you. Sorry for the time that I've taken. May have exceeded it. I'm not too sure. Oh, yes, I have. I'm open to any question and answers that you would like for clarifications, provided you have the time for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I couldn't take off my ear for a moment, for a second. Uh, it was fantastic, and we enjoyed so much, and we learned so much listening to you this evening, sir. And so much of learning. I think it is difficult. In fact, I feel, you said nothing is impossible, but it is truly impossible to summarize what you just said. Every line you said is so meaningful, and it carries so meaning for everybody, including civilians who have been watching this. Sir, we take home a lot this evening from you. So thank you so much for that. And we are very, very grateful, and we express our gratitude to you for sharing such invaluable insights and experiences with us. Very, very important. Sir, every lesson that you said today is going to stay with us. Very, very important, sir, for our lives. Participants, we would like to take some questions. If you have, there are two questions, sir, if we can immediately take, and then we allow the participants to gather their questions and we take them. So the first question that has come is, how do you see what is happening on the Indo-China border now, and how Indians should respond to it, given that there is a call to ban Chinese goods now? So we would like to know your take on what is happening with the Chinese at the border now.
Okay. What else? Any other question? Let me have the questions and I'll answer them one by one.
Sure, sir. So the second question, sir, is how has the force changed in the age of information technology? Given that there is access to a lot of information today, and people are online all the moment, and they have access to everything that is happening around them. How do you see the forces had changed? The force has changed over the years. So these are the two questions that I've gathered. In the meantime, sir, we'll take more questions.
Okay. I'll answer these two. The first one, yes, I'm no authority. I'm not in service anymore. I'm not in touch with the realities. Neither do I go near the military. I never felt a need, having retired, that I need to hang around the corridors of South Block. For I've done my job and I moved on. As I said, you make way for others. But however, my knowledge, based on my experiences of the media, of the papers, to which I just can apply my common or general military knowledge and make a guess or conjecture without going into details, and take me at my face value. I personally feel the Chinese are there to stay for very good reasons. of the strategic importance of the road they made to from Tibet into the former Xinjiang sector of theirs. And now the one road, one belt, which is passing south of Karakoram through the area which the Pakistanis donated them as a gift, the Shakkan Valley, onto the Gwadar port into the Arabian Sea. They've spent a lot of money. It provides them an alternate route, a land route to the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean and further down to the oil producing countries and the Mediterranean Sea to go into the Atlantic. They also have their security needs, the future to guard, the need for prosperity as we do. And any adversary has his own national interest, and rightly so. So there's nothing wrong in what they've done, but wrong is only that they're doing it to capture territory of ours. Now that we've let it remain captured for so long, that means you have consciously, unconsciously, or by status quo, accepted it as to be theirs. And they come and fooled you when you were sleeping. You weren't vigilant. You didn't know what was happening. Or if you knew, you did nothing. You were surprised in Kargil, as I said, and you were surprised here. Whose fault? Our own. Why blame the Chinese for surprising you? Why blame the Pakistanis when they surprised you? Any enemy, his primary role, as you heard in my talk, is to surprise the adversary and get the better of him. So how are they wrong? You've lacked in your own professionalism, in your own intelligence acquiring, in your own failure to share intelligence with each other, and in time management. I remember if I said, so the fault lies with us. And we go to undo it. Do we let it be? Well, that's a matter of politics. I cannot comment. But certainly, as I look at it, talk. Everybody says talk. Yes, we must talk. But how many years will you keep talking? Talk till the time you don't need to talk and you're strong enough to act. With my knowledge, having been in the UN, the day India tested its nuclear bomb during Prime Minister Bajpayee's time, I was in the UN. I got a call from our chief. What is the feel in New York, in the UN about it? And I said, sir, I'm today walking with my head high because the West only understands the language of power. Strength is power. They understand the language of force and power, be it economic or military. We wasted 65 years or 60 years by the time we had that nuclear test. And it's going to take another 60 years to build your economic might. Now we have to build military power. It takes a lesser time, but very expensive. A lot of money. But unless you have one of these two, you have no say. You will not even get a seat in the Security Council, no matter how much you may cry or wish for. The day you are militarily and economically strong, you will be invited for the permanent seat in the Security Council. Isn't Germany and Japan being invited? Japan and Germany, both were razed to the ground at the same time that you got your independence 2 years earlier. China was at the same level as you when you got your independence. China became militarily strong, has almost become economically a world power. Japan, financially a strong power. Germany, both, more stronger economically than militarily. They are being invited. Nobody is bullying any of them. Everybody bullies us because we didn't have a long-term vision what we as a nation should be, maybe because of that colonial influence, the leadership that time, the politics then, that we didn't want to be seen as, or the legacy of the colonial rule probably made our minds think to the contrary. So we lost it. You've done a mistake. Should you cry over spilled milk? No. Now get your act together, move on. And that's what they're doing now in trying to acquire and become militarily strong. But you have to match China's might. The only way China will ever move back will be when you hurt China. How you hurt China? Either financially or militarily. Are you in a state to hurt it militarily? Perhaps not yet. Perhaps you can do, yes, pinpricks. Pinpricks can hurt. They will withdraw where it hurts. You will make some gains. But if they are going to move back from where they are today, they are not going to, because those roads are of vital interest to them, and they will not let you make your road, which will lead to become a threat to their fears. Also, adversary on the West is providing all opportunity, space, territory, ground for them to do it. They are partners in bed on your East and West. They haven't managed our relationships with them, so we suffer. So anyway, I don't say that I'll be so pessimist and optimist too, but at the moment things are not too bright. Let's see what the future brings. Depends how we conduct ourselves, how we manage our act. But certainly war is not the answer to everything, and not as the first step. Fighting or going to war should always be your last resort. It's too much by way of losses. It takes the country back 30 years. You will go back into wilderness from where you came. You don't want that. It'll hurt our ego, but act in wisdom, act like wise men, see what is good for our future generation, for our nation, and at the same time, keep your eyes and ears open. Keep your ears like this, much more than what you get to hear. And B, I made a remark. I remember when I was at the UN, we as a nation are neither politically nor diplomatically aggressive. And when I say aggressive, I don't mean conflict, I don't mean fighting, I mean proactive. We are always in a reactive mode. We have to act. We got to be ahead of the game, as I said in my talk. You can't play a game with a handicap. You got to run a race with practice and be ahead and win it. And that will answer as far as the Chinese are concerned. That's all I can say at the moment. And the amount of money they put in, you see every day what they're showing on the satellite pictures. You think they're going to dismantle and go back? No. Now, I don't want to advocate war, and we can't fight a war with them. So why even talk of it? Yes, now we come to the other thing, Chinese goods and all that. Yes, hurt them, hurt their economy. These are again other means, as a financial strength, economic might, and military might. Both have to be done together. While the military actions are being taken, talks are happening, you're trying to persuade them to go back as much as they can. Well, if they do, good enough. If they don't, well, be prepared for war. And you can't give up. You've got to keep your guard up to box them. As for Chinese goods, is that the answer? Will it really affect them? Yes, spiritually, psychologically, morally, your own ego satisfaction, yes. But do you think it will make a major difference? I don't think so. Economics is not a one-way traffic. They are as much dependent on you as you are on them. You put a ban on them, you'll put a ban on yourself for many things. So you got to think about it wisely as to how the bigger game is, how much of your involvement is it, how much of loser would you be? I'm not a finance man. Our economic pundits, I'm sure they would know of it and would give the right advice. Do we want our manufacturing to suffer? Do we want our industry to be in a mode of retardation? I leave it to your wisdom. So this is the best that I can answer you on the two questions that you asked me so far.
Thank you so much, sir. So the second question has the Indian Army changed in the context of information access to information that is there today?
Very much. You have to change. Technology is changing. All armament is nothing but technologically based. Your weaponry is different kind today. It's very quick moving, quick uh, information seeking. It comes like a dot and goes like a dot. So you have to have a very agile mind with means of interpretation or reading what technology tells you, expertise for that. You got to be a technical army, cannot be non-tech. It was never non-tech. It's like the Navy is not non-tech. Neither is the Air Force is also considered non-tech, but it's not non-tech with the kind of aircraft you have. So much of armament on every aircraft. How can you have a non-tech pilot sitting there? So education is necessary in a scientific mode, in keeping with the times. Technology is of the times, is current, of the generation you belong to. You can't be lagging behind. And therefore, our academies have changed. Our training is definitely oriented to technology of the kind that we have. Of course, we don't have the best, but whatever we get second best is your best. And and certainly we send officers on courses and all. And I would say when people we send to courses should not come back totally biased. I remember when I came back from Somalia, I was told that we are sending you to the Royal Defence, RDSC, Royal Defence Staff College course in London. And I said, no, I'm just coming from abroad. I don't want to go there. I want to do the NDC in India for which you have chosen me. But since I'm not here and you'll earmark me for that, you'll want to send me there 4 months later. It starts in April. This was starting in January. I said, I don't want to go there to learn something which is not relevant to my country. When I come back from there, then I'll be talking like a Britisher. In British terms, how much of wars have the Britishers or the Americans seen? We have seen maximum. Our army, I counted from 48 onwards, how many wars they've seen. We are battle tested with whatever kind of armaments we had and the technology which was second grade. Technology, yes, but technology doesn't make you win wars. It's eventually the man on ground, the man behind the machine, the man behind the technology. Technology is a tool. Brains are the real technology, and brains are in human beings. So the material and the man has to be put together to prosper and succeed and win.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. Sir, if we can go across to a participant, Mrs. Mona Lisa, she would like to ask a question. Sir, can we take a question from a participant?
Yes, please. Yes, Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa ji, please go ahead.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
Sir, my question is, what we should do for our emotional well-being, and how we can retain our motivation on everyday basis, considering our external means current external situation.
With in your wherever you are,
Sorry, sir.
in whatever sphere of work you are you asking with reference to that?
Yes, sir. The external COVID situation I'm talking about, basically, whatever happening all around.
Coronavirus and how to stay motivated.
COVID situation.
Yeah, good question. I had said you have to manage your emotions, emotional management, and emotional management is how when you suppress your ego, use your wisdom, act sensible, keep your cool, think with a cool mind. As they say, never write a letter when you're angry. Have a glass of water, give it time, manage your bosses, manage your colleagues, manage your compatriots, manage your subordinates. Everybody is part of that team. Everybody matters. People matter, up and down, sideways. You can't be an island by yourself and succeed. You're a creature on that island with others on that island, although you may be on an island. So, if you ask for books, yes, you have to read books to understand. If you ask me today, I had taken to reading after retiring because I never had so much of time earlier. I'm reading now about 8 books a month, which is a hell of a lot, almost a book every 3 days. Have I acquired that knowledge? Can I retain what I've read in all these books? I don't have to. Reading has exposed my mind, made it widen, calmed me down, given me a wider horizon, gives me the ability to think, and has slowed my pace. I'm not in a hurry to run and fall. I'll act the way I should.
How much of wars have the Britishers or the Americans seen?
Sorry? So that's what I say. When you do your emotional management, is act wisely, manage people around you. I don't say that go into contradiction and compromise your principles. No, I'll never advise that. Take the consequences as long as you've been honest to yourself. I haven't become a chief. I don't feel frustrated. I didn't deserve it. Probably I couldn't manage a few things in life. That's what I told you. But whatever I've achieved, be contented. I've lived with honor, I've lived with dignity, I've lived with honesty. Yeah. Uh, does that answer your question? Mona Lisa. Hello?
Yes, sir. So actually, I was on mute. So yes, sir. Absolutely. Means I got the light. How we can go about it, because I think there are so many people who are facing the same, the emotional instability, and to retain the motivational factor on everyday basis. That is a lack somewhere down the line. Means most of the person who are facing it. So thank you so much for the light, and we will take it ahead in that way, sir. Thank you so
Yeah, it's
much.
basically, I'll just add on one more line to that stress management. We act foolishly when we are under stress, or in a
Hmm.
haste, we do things for ourselves. Remain cool.
Right, sir. Right, sir. So thank you so much for your answer, sir. Thank you.
So thank you so much, sir. One last question, sir, if we can take.
You are welcome. I have all the time for you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, actually, the India of today has changed, and a person to become the prime minister of this country does not need to be a, a full-time politician or somebody who has been into politics all his life or all her life, because today information can reach every household, sir, in a few minutes. If we speak something from Delhi or Bombay or from any parts of this country, it can reach millions of people in a few minutes, or in a few hours. You think, sir, a military man will become the prime minister of this country ever, given that we never had a prime minister who is from military?
Uh, you answered something which I believe in, or rather, you asked something that I related to what I believe in. And before I answer that, I just want to add one more thing of the technology thing that you had mentioned. With today's technology and especially social media and all this WhatsApp and each one being in touch with the other on real time, while good is being done, a lot of bad is coming out of it also. Everybody is wise without being wise, actually, without checking credibility of information. You find everybody has become a doctor on WhatsApp, like the COVID. Who do you believe? Who is the real doctor? What is the real COVID? These are questions that are coming up because of misinformation with which our information technology is loaded. Now, coming back to the question you asked for, I firmly believe that India is such a beautiful country. It's One should be proud of being an Indian, our democracy, our freedom. I've been to a large number of countries by virtue of my UN appointment. There isn't a country like ours. And our country doesn't need politicians. This country runs on its own. Our democracy is run by the people of India. The forces of people make this country run. The politicians are there to garland statues, to manage things. They manage more for themselves rather than the country. You know of all these pensions that the parliamentarians draw without even having sitting sessions. That's on the lighter side. But are they doing national selfless service? Are they servants of the people? But then, as you're saying, by way of technology, we can manage everything and run the country. No, you do need politicians. Somebody has to be a decision maker. Somebody has to run the country. Somebody has to manage everything that others are doing. People can do everything. They're running the country, but somebody still has to coordinate. And when you ask me, can a military man ever become? There's no need. That the people will decide. If we say the military man should become, then we're not a democracy. We are putting conditions on our democracy. If a military man is deserving and he stands for election and is able to convince the people of this country, then they're not going to look at him as he's a military man. They're going to go by what he's speaking, his thoughts, his intentions, his genuineness, and his credibility, which unfortunately most of our politicians forget when they come into power. So it's not that a military man will bring about wonders. It's a man of character that we need, be he a civilian or a military man. It's a man who's above petty politics. It's a man who's above regionalism. It's a man who's above, this is a very, very secular country who believes in equality for all. We need that kind of leadership. And I hope we do get it, and we have. We've had it in the past. We have now. Look at the good side of everyone. Don't look at the bad side. You won't find angels coming to run a country. You'll find always the devil, and every devil has a good side. So I would say that look at the positive side. They are capable people. If they correct themselves a little, they'll be the best. And we have to choose. It's up to us who we choose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful session. And, sir, our gratitude to you for sparing so much of time with us and sharing so much of experience, so much of learnings, your life experiences with us, and ethics as a subject. I think is very important to civilians, anybody actually. So thank you, sir, so much.
Military ethics is not special.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, sir, so much. We are so grateful to you for sparing this much time with us and sharing your thoughts, your mind with us this evening. Sir, we'll ever remain grateful to you, and our gratitude and respect. Thank you, sir, so much. You have a great evening. You have a pleasant evening, and good night.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, sir.